It's phase one.
Major companies rushing now to respond after President Trump announced plans to impose a $100,000 fee on H-1B visas. These are used by corporations to bring highly skilled workers into the U.S.
How do you do that? You hire Americans. So there's an incentive to hire American.
This was a relatively surprise announcement that came out. What's changed is that there will be a new fee for new H-1B visa holders. This is a big change because the typical fee is currently a couple $1,000s. So this could potentially change the scope of the program pretty significantly.
We've also seen a proposed rule that would change the way that wages are determined for H-1Bs. And so the higher the wage, the more chances you have of being selected in the lottery.
The tech industry so dependent upon that high-skilled labor, whereas there's others in this country who feel like immigration, any kind of immigration essentially, is taking away American jobs.
On one side, you don't want it to be that cheap labor comes and replaces American opportunity. I think there's some truth in that. On the other side, you don't want to have labor not be there and actually meet the needs of these startups and then slow down progress for our businesses. Nobody wants that.
So the H-1B program was created by what's called the IM Act 1990. It was the Immigration Act changes of 1990. And the purpose of the visa was really to drive high-skilled talent to the United States. There's a statutory cap of 65,000 H-1Bs every year. There's an additional carve-out of 20,000 for individuals who have a U.S. master's or higher. So if you're in a job that requires master's level talent, there's an additional carve-out.
So it's a total of 85,000 people. And then in terms of timing, it's for a 3-year visa, and then you can renew it one more time, so a total of 6 years. The program was designed to bring in people, especially since technology was starting to ramp up in particular, bring in people that the U.S. did not have in terms of actual labor supply.
So in order to participate in the H-1B program, you have to be what's called a specialty worker. And a specialty worker is defined as an individual who, for entry level into the job, must possess at least a bachelor's degree or higher. So we're talking about high-skilled, high-level jobs that really drive innovation.
India is by far the biggest beneficiary of the program. Second to that is China, and then it kind of drops off from there, and it's a sort of smattering of countries. And then in terms of companies who have been benefiting from the program, Amazon is the biggest beneficiary. They hold about 10,000 or so of the visas. Then the next is a consultancy company, and then it's sort of a collection of the bigger technology companies like Facebook and Google. A lot of the big CEOs have actually benefited from the program. So Sundar Pichai, CEO of Alphabet Google, Satya Nadella, CEO of Microsoft.
Elon Musk is one of them. He came both as a student and then did the pipeline to H-1B and then ultimately went on to professional status.
That said, given the backdrop, this is in line with the administration's push to benefit a lot of domestically born people in a lot of these types of spaces, just given the labor market dynamics have softened quite a bit, and they're expected to soften pretty significantly ahead just given AI.
Employers have an incentive to bring in lower paid, lower experienced workers at the expense of U.S. workers who compete with them. So the H-1B program right now, you could say, is functioning to bring in cheaper labor.
The whole idea is no more will these big tech companies or other big companies train foreign workers. They have to pay the government $100,000, then they have to pay the employee. So it's just not economic. If you're going to train somebody, you're going to train one of the recent graduates from one of the great universities across our land, train Americans, stop bringing in people to take our jobs.
If you think about people like Elon Musk, for example, when they were startups, they were on a very slim budget and working out of their garage. So if you think of the impact of not only making it so that only the people that are paying the highest wages can even participate in the H-1B program, but also creating a fee of $100,000 in order to get a petition, all of those businesses never would exist today if that was the situation that we found ourselves in.
I don't think that my family would have been able to afford the $100,000. And so the opportunity for my family and for me to be here would not have been possible with this current policy.
I think this shift really has to do more with an attack on our immigration system, not only illegal, but legal immigration as well.
We'll likely see a big slowdown in the program. It's likely to have a lot less demand than it previously did. What will likely happen is companies will look to domestic talent for a lot of these roles. And just given that there is that rise in unemployment rate for skilled workers, there does appear to be that supply of worker available for this type of job.
The new policy will actually increase demand here in the United States for U.S. workers. There's no question about that.
I would summarize it as a tariff for labor, but it'll increase the price of that labor. In the AI community, I don't think it really matters. It's a rounding error given what people are paying for the talent in that space.
For tech, it's an arms race right now. And in this AI arms race, they don't have time to basically go to the whiteboard. So you're gonna have to see them pay up pretty significantly in Silicon Valley.
It is going to be the competitive landscape and we will comply with it, but it does decelerate access to certain techs.
It will also drive up the cost of those workers, which will have the impact of encouraging scaling firms or small firms to seek more employees globally.
If you look at what research has found is that whenever there are restrictions on H-1B visas, it just induces firms, multinational companies to offshore more vigorously. So even though the H-1B visa may cause a hit in the near term, to the extent that it causes more multinational firms to offshore more broadly, India as one of the recipients of that offshoring will stand to benefit in the medium term.
In some ways, rising costs will reshape hiring strategies for entrepreneurs and business owners, big and small, whether it's Amazon on their side or even small and scaling businesses that are looking for the best talent.
Now it also creates opportunities. It could be opportunities for the UK, it could be opportunities for Europe or maybe China, because obviously if the US becomes more stringent, this is golden opportunity for many of these countries to open the door to offshore experts and workers.
Not ironically, China announced a new K visa effective October 1st. That's their equivalent of the H-1B visa. And it does the opposite of what we're doing. It streamlines the process and makes it more efficient and easier for workers to go to China after they've been educated in the US. So we're stifling it in innovation at a time when we need it the most and a time when our competitors are welcoming it with open arms. We're sort of in wait-and-see mode, but I also know that there are a number of organizations and groups considering litigation. So overall, it's going to be a huge hit on the US economy. It is an enormous hit on innovation, and it's really just symptomatic of a larger attack on legal immigration in general.
I do think the long-term effects will be those H-1B visa holders had been people who get jobs, get married, build families, and start companies in the United States. If we think over decades, not days, the impact here will have, I think, some dampening on innovation in the United States and actually foster innovation in emerging markets and emerging market economy.
I strongly believe we should bring all the smartest talent to the United States because I think that's what makes our companies great.
We definitely, even if we are a country of immigrants, want to make sure that Americans and legal immigrants are first in line when it comes for opportunities, and that our schools and colleges are educating people for a market that actually exists as opposed to competing with the rest of the entire world for precious opportunities.
Keep in mind, the numbers aren't that large, right? We're talking about 85,000 total people per year. So it's probably not going to structurally change the dynamics significantly for any major group or country.
Talent is global, capability is global, brilliance is global. And so I think organizations that are looking for capable people will seek them wherever they can find them. And I think that's the insight of this, is that the more global businesses are, the more effective they'll be to operate.
We want all the brightest minds to come to the United States. And remember, immigration is the foundation of the American dream, and we represent the American dream.